Welcome everybody to Three Wide in the Middle, your home for all things racing with me, Tyler Shannon, and my man with me, as always, Keith Bradley. Keith, how's it going?
Oh, what is up?
Oh, not much. So, did you have a good holiday? You have a good Fourth of July?
Yeah, yes and no. We went to a 4th of July party at my mother-in-law and father-in-law's, and then I worked on 4th of July, so
Oh, that
it's
sucks.
best of both worlds, I guess.
Yeah, that sucks. I don't miss those days at all. I dealt with that for a decade when I worked at the casino, and it it sucked. It absolutely sucked because you're working nights at a place that you don't want to be at, and then your family's at home, having fun, and it's such a bummer. If you I tell you what, I always tell people this. If you are ever feeling down and out about life, go to a casino on a holiday and you will immediately feel better about your situation because there is literally like no more depressing a place than, you know, a casino on like a major, especially like a major family holiday. 4th of July, not so much, but like if you go there on like Christmas or Thanksgiving, right, where it's like, you should be with your family, right? Like it's a time for your family to be together. They're considered family holidays, and you're at a casino, like there's something wrong. And when I first started working there, I used to feel bad for people. I was like, "Oh my God, that sucks, dude. It's Christmas Day and they're here at the casino. They've got nowhere else to be." After a year or two of dealing with those people, I was like, "It's no freaking wonder why you're here. Nobody wants to be around your ass. You're fucking horrible." You know what I mean? Like that's how you look at them because they were miserable people. Miserable people. And it's like, you might want to take a look in the mirror. Right? Like you kind of suck to be around. It's probably why no one's inviting you over for Christmas. So, but anyways, yeah, rant over. But yeah, if you just ever feeling bad about life, just go to a casino on like Christmas, Thanksgiving, and you only need to be there about 30 minutes to realize like, man, this sucks. I do not want to be like this. So, yeah, that's a bummer you had to work, man. I I worked during the day on 4th of July, but that was literally because I had nothing else to do. I didn't do the glass business. We were off, but I did work on the computer with the content business and stuff like that. And yeah, my son, because we went out to my in-laws, we go out there every year for 4th of July and we barbecue and the kids play and then we light off fireworks when it gets dark and that's it. That's our day. And excuse me. Uh my son went out there early. He went out there like 11 o'clock in the morning. His aunt picked him up because we had all pitched in and got one of those big blow up, like bounce house things, but we got the water slide one so that, you could it was like a water slide and then it goes down into a big blow up pool. And so all the kids basically played in the pool the whole day. And yeah, so and then my daughter was gone for most of the time, so I was literally like by myself, and I was like, I can't believe it. I've got nothing, no, nobody here. I've got like this 4 or 5 hour window where I've got like nothing to do, and I literally like I tried to relax. I tried to just like sit down and relax and watch TV, and I made it about an hour, and I was like, I gotta get something done. Like I felt like I hadn't earned it. Dude, I have such a sickness. It's so ridiculous, dude. Because I was like, oh my God, I can't just sit here and do nothing. I have work that I need to get done. I need to get some stuff done because I'm not gonna be working most of the day. I'm like, I gotta get something accomplished today. So yeah, I actually just hopped on the computer, did some work for a little bit, and then started to relax. So, but yeah, it was a pretty good day overall. We had fun and the kids enjoyed it. My son got to help me. This was the first year he got to help me light the fireworks, so he was happy about that because he's
That's
10.
awesome.
Yeah, he's 10. So him and his cousin Damien, who's I think 8 or 9, they got to help light fireworks this year because I'm the one who always lights them. I've done it for the last like 10 years, and my son was like, "Oh, I want to help this year. Can I help this year?" And I was like, "Yeah, you can help this year." So yeah, he got to help light fireworks. So he was excited about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. So, anyways, a lot of stuff to cover. Obviously, we had the Chicago Street race in the Cup Series. Massive win there for Shane Van Gisbergen. I will be referring to him as SVG the rest of the show just because I don't want to keep screwing up his name. Um, Massive win for him. We got a bunch of stuff to cover about that race in hit or miss. We've also got our NASCAR Pick'em we're going to be doing today. Plus, we're going to be doing a different segment called Last In, Last Out, where we're going to discuss who we think the last three drivers into the playoffs will be, and then also the first three drivers who are going to be eliminated. Basically, 17th, 18th, and 19th in points, kind of outside looking in. And then we've got a very special dirt track segment this week. No dirt track recap, just because we're going to be doing our Eldora Million breakdown. So next week we've got the Eldora Million and the Kings Royal. We will record the pod on Friday morning like we did this week. This week we're doing it just because of scheduling stuff for me and Keith. But next week we'll be recording the pod on Friday morning and getting it up that day so we can do our recap of the Eldora Million and then a breakdown or a preview of the Kings Royal. So big week coming up in the sprint car series. So a lot of stuff that we got to cover with that. So let's not waste any time with so much on the docket. Let's dive right into our hit or miss portion of the show. So, Keith, are you ready?
Let's fire it up.
All right, man. So, SVG Shane Van Gisbergen's win at Chicago has brought back the road course ringer to NASCAR. Hit or miss the mark?
I would say it hits the mark. I mean, he's a road course guy. He's a V8 supercar guy. So those of you that know, they race on road courses. So I'd say it did. Um, Man, how exciting was that to watch?
It was crazy, dude. It was insane, man. It was actually a really good event. I actually enjoyed it. I really did.
And I have to agree. I mean, he was really fast in the late stages, so I'd say he definitely deserved to win there. He once when he got around Justin Haley, I was surprised by how quick he pulled away,
Mm-hmm.
and I was also surprised to see that Chase Elliott kind of just let him go.
Yeah, I don't think anybody had anything for him. I really don't. And on, our topic of bringing back the road course ringer, I think it halfway hits the mark. I think it brings back the road course ringer if you are a V8 supercar driver from Australia. I don't,
Yeah,
we've seen other road course ringers come in and they haven't had much success. And we've talked about this before where the cup guys have really improved their road course racing skills because it's no longer just two races on the schedule, right? It's not just Sonoma and Watkins Glen. They've got, what, five of them, six of them on the schedule now. So the road course racing has definitely become much more of an emphasis for these drivers. But if you look at the V8 supercars, they are the closest thing to these Cup cars. In fact, what's his name? Was it Steve O'Donnell? Who said that the Gen 7 car was, they got concepts and ideas from the V8 supercar, and you don't even have to be a NASCAR expert to know that. I mean, the first time a bunch of us in our Discord server saw the Gen 7 car, we were like, that looks like a V8 supercar. Like we could see that. So there's definitely some similarities between the two. Now, obviously, what was incredible was he's used to driving on the opposite side of the car, shifting with the opposite hand, things of that nature. So for him to do that, come in and not only be fast, but he was like 0.2 of a second faster, was pretty incredible to see. It was definitely an awesome race on his end.
Yeah, and I almost wonder if this opens the door for more V8 supercar guys to come over and try the Project 91, or if that's even a thought, because, I mean, like you just said, this car is very similar to a V8 supercar, and I want to see Marcus Ambrose in this car now.
Yeah, I think I would like to see that too. I think that would be cool. Yeah, and look, to continue on the hit or miss here, Van Gisbergen was correct when he said that the top 10 drivers in the V8 Supercar Series could come over here and win in NASCAR. I mean, like you said, I think it opens the door for more of them, and I do think they could win. Now, I will say this though, because this has been a very I mean, I saw some people's videos calling Van Gisbergen the new king of NASCAR. That is the most absurd statement I've ever heard. I understand you're trying to get people to watch your stuff and get clicks and stuff, but come on, let's not be jackasses, okay? The new king of NASCAR, he won one race and it was phenomenal and it was incredible and it was his first race. And the dude obviously has talent. You could go watch his supercar races and he is incredible. And the top 10 drivers are incredible. But make no mistake, this was also the most level playing field you were going to see. Nobody had been to this place before. This is a completely new track. The V8 drivers actually, or the supercar drivers, they actually run street courses where these cup guys have never been on a street course. And there's a difference in those types of tracks. We've talked about that. We talked about it last week where you start looking at when you have these crowned roads and the way that the things get wide and then tighten up. And you look at where he was faster than everybody else. It's the technical parts of the track where it gets really narrow and the walls are right there. So this was, really the best opportunity for him to come in, and he delivered. I don't want to take nothing away from him because he absolutely delivered and was dominant all weekend. It wasn't a fluke. He was fastest in practice. He qualified towards the front. Like, he was very, very good. But I would like to see these guys on a Watkins Glen or a Sonoma, a track that these other drivers have experience at, and see just how good they can be.
Yeah, and I almost wonder if Justin Marks brings him back to the Project 91. I wonder if they schedule more races for these road courses. But before we crown him the king of NASCAR, let's see him on an oval and see if the playing field's different.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, make no mistake, what he did was incredible. It hasn't been done since, like, I think Johnny Rutherford back in like 64 or something. Like, it was something insane. Like, it had been like 60 years or 70 years or something like that since a driver had come in and won their first cup race. So it was incredible. But to start dubbing him the new king of NASCAR, like, come on, let's pump the brakes a little bit there. I mean, it was amazing, but that would be absurd. Like, I mean, just hold on. All right, moving on. Keith, the Chicago Street Course was an absolute success. Hit or miss the mark?
I'm gonna say it hits the mark. Just to see the amount of people that showed up, the fans that were in the stands before the rains came, even for the Xfinity race, and then to see them still somewhat there for the Cup race, I think it was a success. Now we all know Mother Nature decided to have a different say on it. I mean, there could be different opinions on it could why it was a failure, but I think it was a success, and I think we should see it again.
Yeah, I'm with you. Overall, I thought it was a success. I thought it was much better than I thought it was going to be. Um, I had made mention that I thought the track was pretty interesting the way they had it laid out, and it turned out really, really cool. Um, it's a great example of how iRacing, the platform that me and you both frequent, often, can help NASCAR. This track was designed in iRacing. It was, created in iRacing. Like, NASCAR went to iRacing and said, "Hey, if we wanted to do this, like, what could this look like?" And they did it. It was incredible, right? They get the data, the laser scan data and all stuff like that, and they put together these potential tracks and what it could look like, and it turned out great. So I think overall it was pretty incredible. Now, I will say, let's pump the brakes on having 4 or 5 street courses a year, because that is something we've already heard is like, okay, well, now we need more street courses. Let's not beat it to death. Okay, this happens all the time with everything, but in NASCAR specifically, we saw this right with the mile and a halves. Like the mile and a halves are great. Well, let's make every new track a freaking 1.5 mile, speedway with a dog leg or a tri-oval, right? And now we got a bunch of racetracks that we don't go to and they're getting rid of. Like, let's not go, okay, now every road course needs to be a street course, or let's have, a dozen street courses on the circuit. Like, it was cool. It was unique. It turned out to be a really good race, but this does not mean that we need to go do, next year we need New York and Los Angeles both on the schedule with street courses. Okay.
No, and I completely agree. We don't need to see 8 or 9 of them.
Yeah.
If Chicago decides not to bring it back next year, then I would look at, let's go to a different city each year.
Yeah, I think that's something that you could do if you wanted to do that. If you wanted to have kind of it be a little bit more random, because I do think that was one of the reasons why the race was so good, was the drivers didn't have a ton of experience there and they didn't have a ton of data on the track. Right? They had ran practice and stuff like that and they were able to figure it out and the racing was good, but these guys didn't know it just flat cold like they do these other tracks. So I think that added a new element and layer to it, which made it a really good race. And it was a really good race. So, hats off to them. But before we start scheduling a half a dozen street courses, let's pump the brakes on that and not kill a good thing with oversaturation. All right, moving on. Speaking of the Chicago street course race, NASCAR dropped the ball and screwed a handful of front running drivers when they shortened the race to 75 laps. Hit or miss the mark, Keith?
I'm going to say it hits the mark, but I'm not going to completely blame NASCAR. I'm going to blame the Parks Department through the city of Chicago. It almost seemed like they were the ones in control the weekend. So I mean, I can't really blame NASCAR, but that they had the option to run on Monday, but they also had to have the track torn down by midnight Monday.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I don't think they could have done that if they had
And I
raced the race on Monday.
and I don't think so either. And you can't fault NASCAR because of Mother Nature.
Mm-hmm.
I had an argument with somebody the other day about this. I was like, it is no different if they were at Talladega and it rained. No different. Um, it's not NASCAR's fault. Let's not blame NASCAR. They're attempting every way possible of getting it in, even with the Xfinity. I know they were just gonna throw the yellow, pace around twice, and call the Xfinity race good. I was surprised that they didn't, but look at the heavy rains and then the
Yep.
pressure from the Parks Department to get the race going. I guess there's a lot of controversy on the Parks Department telling people to leave.
Yeah,
So
there was the I don't know. I don't know where the issues were coming from, why this was, but when the lightning came and the Parks Department's kicking people out and making them leave, it's like, the main thing is for people to find shelter, not get off the premises. That doesn't make
yeah,
any sense. Like, if you're really worried about safety, why are you kicking people out of shelters, right? Because they weren't just telling people who were around the track watching that they needed to leave. They were kicking people out of suites. Like, give me a break. If there's a lightning storm, being inside should be the most protected area, correct? Like, I don't get it. So I don't know if you just had a bunch of people who had power for the first time and they were just wanting to exercise it, if they've just got really stupid and restrictive rules when it comes to that. I don't know. As far as NASCAR shortening the race, I mean, yes, there was a handful of guys, right? You could argue Christopher Bell and all those guys who had been running up front, that they kind of got screwed. when they did that. And I understand it. You had people who had pitted, and then now all of a sudden it changes the fuel strategy and who's going to do what and how far we can go. But Van Gisbergen was on the same strategy as those leaders. He had been running up front, most of the day. It's not like he was in 30th and then got up there because of, NASCAR saying the race is going to be 75 laps and then he ran away with it. So he was someone who overcame it and still won the race. So yes, you can make that argument. I understand it. It was starting to get dark. I mean, if you go back and you watch that replay, you'll notice that the street lamps on the sides of the roads are starting to light up because the sun is going down. So I understand it. The cars don't have lights. You gotta have, you gotta be safe out there. And, if talking about the rain like you did, I thought it was pretty incredible that you look at that racetrack and it was like standing water. And
I mean,
within like an hour, it was gone. I couldn't believe it.
I was blown away because hell, there was tires floating down pit road.
Yes, yes.
The
It was a
city of
freaking
Chicago,
monsoon.
yeah, it was a hurricane,
Yeah,
and they had hurricane rains.
yeah,
They broke a record of rainfall in a day
yeah.
or
Yeah,
whatever
it
it
had
was.
been a record from like 1983 or something like that. Yeah, it was
They were
crazy.
in a drought,
Yeah,
so I mean,
not anymore.
not only did NASCAR bring a bunch of people to their city and help build money in the city, but they also brought a bunch of rain with them
Yeah.
and helped the city out. So I mean, they helped in multiple ways.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. All right, moving on. All right, so we got a sprint car topic to cover. If you did not see this over the weekend, uh, this was what does it, Keith? The Boss series?
Yeah, the Ohio
The,
Buckeye.
yeah, the Ohio Buckeye or Buckeye Outlaw Sprint Car Series or something like that. But basically, you had a guy, a leader, the leader at the time, but was making some passes that people thought were aggressive. One of the drivers, under caution, went to retaliate. He was going to wreck that person. He ended up wrecking the wrong driver, and he has now been suspended for the remainder of the season. So, Keith, Paul Dews has been suspended for the remainder of the season, and he should be suspended for the remainder of the season for intentionally wrecking the wrong car under yellow. Hit or miss the mark.
I mean, it's got to hit the mark. It'll hit the mark every freaking time.
Yeah.
Now, I know there's different arguments that Ricky Lewis, the leader, that was making questionable moves. I mean, I know he made slight contact with Paul Dews, pushed him up and over the berm of turn two there, and then Paul Dews decided to take his head off his shoulders and shove it up his ass
Yeah.
and wreck the wrong guy. And that's wrong in many ways. These cars
Yes.
are very expensive. The cars are very, very dangerous, as we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I got to applaud Landon Simon for being somewhat of the bigger person because I know if it was me, I probably would have made it all the way out of the car and tried to attack Paul Dews because that's just ridiculous. That doesn't belong in sprint car racing.
No.
Uh, and kids, take a look at this video and take something from it. If you're gonna wreck the guy, wreck the right freaking car,
Yes, don't wreck the wrong guy. Don't
or
wreck
or
an
or,
innocent bystander.
or better yet, save it for the end of the race in the pits. Settle it in the pits. We don't
Mm-hmm.
need to turn cars into weapons. It's just
No.
ridiculous.
No. And like you said, these cars are very expensive. This is the Buckeye Outlaw Sprint Series, okay? This is not the World of Outlaws. This is not the Lucas Oil Outlaws or even USAC, all right? These are essentially weekend warriors who've got a state tour. It's like what we have out here in California with the King of the West series, right? These are very good drivers, okay? They have enough money to race their own stuff, but these guys aren't running around with NOS or Napa on the side of their car. They're they've got local sponsors, right? They're paying for most of it themselves. So you don't need to go out and wreck somebody's, $60,000 sprint car because you're being a jackass and you didn't like the way someone passed you. Like that's just it's a it's a douchebag move at the highest level. I don't I'm with you, man. I've never been a fan of intentionally wrecking people. I've always thought that was screwed up. Now you can make the case in NASCAR, the whole bump and run and stuff like that. Like that's stock car racing. That's, short track, late model stuff like that. But when you get into open wheel, to me, it's different. You you it's just one of those things you can't really do, right? Because there's no guarantee of how it's going to turn out. You might want to throw a slider on somebody and force their hand, like, hey man, you got to lift or you're going to end up in the wall, and that's dirt racing. But to intentionally wreck somebody like that under caution and then it be the wrong driver, like, dude, come on. Like,
Like
that's just moronic.
like any of us that's been involved in open wheel, sprint car racing, dirt racing in general, contact's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Yes.
Whether
In
whether
all
the
racing.
yeah. And my issue with this is, what if his right front went into the driver's side cockpit open
Yeah.
and hit Landon?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's asinine. It's
Mm-hmm.
asinine, and my first thought was Paul Deuce deserves an ass whipping, an old
Yes.
fashioned beatdown, because that is fucking stupid.
Yep. It was. So yes, he's been suspended for the remainder of the season. He will
As
be
he should.
allowed back. Yes, and I'm with you. He should have been. Because that type of thing, you can't have that. It's not okay. So
And not only does it make sprint car racing look bad, but it makes that Boss series look bad too.
yes, absolutely. It makes it look. You make your series look like, those clowns out of Bowman Gray who do nothing but bumper cars and fist fight. You know what I mean? It makes it look like it's just some ridiculous throwdown, demolition derby in sprint cars, right? Even though that's not what it is. If you go watch highlights of those races, those are good drivers and there's some good racing, but that's not a national series. They're not in the spotlight every week, right? We're talking about them this week strictly for this reason, right? You're getting attention for the wrong reason. So, yeah, I'm with you. And you don't want that stuff to be happening. So yeah, he got suspended. He should be suspended, and we'll see if he comes back to that series next year. But
And and not to keep beating the dead horse here, and what's even more fucked up for him is he was fifth in points, had a shot at probably could have won the championship maybe.
yeah,
I
mm-hmm.
mean, he's an idiot.
Yep, yep. Unfortunately, he is. So hopefully he learns from this moving forward. But that'll do it for our hit or miss portion of the show. And when we get back from the break, we're going to be doing our last in, last out, and our NASCAR Pick'em. Plus, we still got our Eldora Million breakdown. So stick around. Today's episode is brought to you by Produxa. Look, you guys, when it comes to protecting and adding a mirror-like shine to your surfaces, you pretty much have two options. You can go with one of those low, quality products out there. Do the old school, like my parents used to do, use the old dish soap to wash your car, or you can go with Produxa. You guys, I've personally used this stuff and it works incredible, man. Whether it's their ceramic coating, their wash, their tire shine, and it not only looks great, but it's super easy to use. I mean, my 10-year-old son was helping me use this stuff, and we used it on my daughter's car, and the car literally looked new. And my daughter's 17, so you can imagine that the car did not look new before we washed it. So if you want to actually give your car a mirror-like shine while in the process protecting it, head over to Produxa.com or the link down in the description below and check out their full line of products today. I can promise you, you will love them. All right, it is now time for our NASCAR Pick'em. Last week, damn it, Keith, you beat me again. I had Tyler Reddick, you had Jenson Button. Both of our guys had bad luck there. I think Button's he qualified in the top 10, didn't he? Yeah, he qualified 8th.
Yeah, and he ran in the top 10
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of the race, and then bad luck just strikes at the wrong time.
Yep. Reddick qualified 2nd. He was obviously fast in the race. And then, yeah, tough luck for him. And he ended up finishing 28th. So you got the win. We've got is it Atlanta? That's right. We've got Atlanta, the mile-and-a-half restrictor plate race coming up. So, Keith, who do you want to pick for Atlanta?
Oh man, there's some guys I already picked that I probably should have kept, but I'm going to swing for the fence here. I'm going to go with, well, never mind. I already picked him once. Stand by. Let's see. I'm going to go with Eric Almirola.
All right. All right. So you're going to take Eric Almirola. I like that pick. That's a pretty good one. Looking at his season, that's about the only way we're going to see him make the playoffs this season is if he can get a win at a restrictor plate or a road course.
Yeah, and there were some other guys that I wanted to pick, but I kind of want to keep them in my pocket for when we get further down the season here.
Yeah, I had been saving Reddick for a road course and it was looking good there and then he got wrecked. It's just and I've got some people that I'm trying to save too and then it's like, well, damn it, if I don't do something here soon though, I'm going to end up out of it. I'm going to actually go with Michael McDowell. I actually like him on the super speedways. He does pretty well at them. Um, and I think he's going to have a good run this week. He's another one of those drivers that we'll talk about here in a few minutes in our last in, last out, where I think he's got a shot to actually make the playoffs. And I think he's going to have a really good opportunity this week. I am hoping that I want Corey LaJoie to win. Okay, I am going to root for Corey LaJoie until the day I die, and that Spire team. I want to see them win a race and make the playoffs. I want to see that so badly because I just really like Corey LaJoie, and that team has gotten better. And I think that they're not quite there yet in terms of being on the level with these other teams. But these restrictor plate tracks, he does really well at them, and Atlanta's one that he seems to do really well at. So I'm hoping he wins. It would actually please me most if LaJoie won the race and McDowell was second. Then that way I could beat you in the pick'em as well. So I'm hoping that's what happens. So, but yeah, so you're gonna take Almirola. I'm gonna have McDowell at Atlanta. I gotta admit, man, I would love to see them race Atlanta without the restrictor plates. You actually have. This is one of the few tracks, right, that you can do this at, where you could actually run it with a different package. They keep talking about having different tracks on stuff like this, but this is an instance where you could have it be one race, the high downforce, low horsepower, and then you could do another race in the same season where you've got the regular speedway package on there, right? The 4-inch spoiler and the 670 horsepower. I think that would be really cool, right? If you could do the same thing at like a Bristol or even like a Dover, where instead of doing Bristol dirt, you could do one Bristol race where they're running the regular speedway package because that's what they run at Bristol, and then you could do another one where they're running the short track package, right? The 2-inch spoiler and the reduced downforce. So I wish that NASCAR would look at doing stuff like that as opposed to trying to add more and more different tracks. Like, I like the different tracks. I think going to tracks only once is actually a really good thing. I think there's some tracks that we should be only going to once. But the ones that we do double up on, I think this would be a really cool way to add a new twist to it without having to change and do all different types of shit. You know what I mean? And I wish they would do that at Atlanta. I would love to see these cars at Atlanta without the restrictor plates because I think it would be incredible racing. The mile and a half are the best racing we have right now with these cars. And Atlanta has always been an awesome track. Even though it's been repaved, I think we could see good racing there.
I completely 100% agree.
Yeah, I think it would be great. I think, they should just, with the Charlotte, the Roval, get rid of the Roval. They should just, NASCAR should come out and announce it now. They'd be like, hey, we're not going to run the Roval this year. We're just going to run the Speedway again. Right? Stop with the Roval. We don't need the Roval. They should. I'm hoping this is the last Indy road course we do. That after this, they're gonna be like, hey, we're gonna run Indy the Oval next year.
And I completely agree with both of them. Get rid of the Roval. Let's go back to Indy Oval. The road course was fun to a point. Let's go back to what we do.
Yes.
Because let's be honest, Charlotte puts on the best cup race in these cars so far, outside of Auto Club, in my opinion. And I'm genuinely curious to see what these cars can do at the Indy Oval.
Yeah, me too. Me too, man. I think it would be good racing. I think you can make the case for Charlotte, Auto Club, Kansas was another good one, right? And what do all those tracks have in common? They're mile and a halves, they're fast, and they're multiple groove. You can run the top, the middle, the bottom, they're multiple groove, and that's what you have to have in these cars because of the fact that the dirty air with these cars is so it's such a big deal. Being able to just run where the other person is not it's huge. It's absolutely huge. So yeah, I'm with you. I would love to see them just be like, we're done with the Rovals, we're done with the Indy Oval, we're going back to the actual, the oval track, and we're gonna do that. Yeah, I'm with you, man. That would be incredible. So that is gonna do it for our NASCAR Pick'em. Now we are going to do something new. This is our last in, last out. I actually got this idea looking through the driver standings, because if you look right now, not at the playoff standings, but the regular season standings, if you look right now at the cutoff line, you've got Ty Gibbs 16th in points. He's actually in the playoffs right now. And if you look behind him, you've got, Suarez, McDowell, Allmendinger, Alex Bowman, right? You guys remember when Alex Bowman was leading the points? Has that changed? LaJoy 23rd and Chase Elliott 24th. Chase Elliott missed 6 weeks and he is up to 24th. He has been chipping away at that. And when I saw that, I was like, I wonder if Chase Elliott could actually point his way into the playoffs. Now, that would be extremely difficult to do without a win. Extremely difficult. But there is a outside chance that he could do it. And so that's where I came up with this idea. So, Keith, what we're going to do is we're going to make our selections for who we think are going to be the last 3 drivers to make it into the playoffs, meaning they'll be 14th, 15th, 16th in points, and then who we think are going to be the first 3 that are on the outside looking in, which would be 17th, 18th, and 19th. So, are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So, I will go first. We can pick other people's drivers too. It's not like it's got to be we want someone selected, they're off, and you don't have to actually number them. It's not like they got to be in the exact order. They could be in that group, either last in or first out. Okay. So as part of my last in group, I am going to first take Chase Elliott. I think he is going to make the playoffs. I think it's almost impossible for him not to. I don't think he's going to point his way in. I do think they will get a win. I know it's been a very rough season. We talk about momentum and that type of stuff all the time. and I think that they're going to hit their stride. Hendrick Motorsports as a whole has not looked that great. I mean, Kyle Larson had a pretty good run this last week. And even then, I think Larson's fifth in points, and Byron is what? I think Byron's second in the regular season and first in the projected playoffs or something like that. So those two are still doing really well. But yeah, I think Chase Elliott's going to get things turned around. And I do think he'll make it into the playoffs. Who do you got, Keith?
Who I think's gonna make it in? Are we doing one at a time, or are we doing them all at once?
Um, let's see here. Yeah, we could do it. We could do it. We could do it all at once. So yeah, let me just make my three last in. That way we can just do that. So yeah, I got Chase Elliott is going to be my first last in. I think Bubba Wallace is going to be in that group. I think he'll make it in as well. And then for my third and final last in selection, I think we're going to see Daniel Suarez. I think Suarez, they've had a tough season, but Trackhouse has obviously showed that they've got speed. Suarez has just made some mistakes that have cost him. So I do think that he'll make it in the playoffs. So yeah, those are going to be my last three making it in. All right, Keith. So who do you got as your last three making it in?
I got Chris Buescher, Bubba Wallace, and Michael McDowell.
I like it. I do. Buescher's shown speed this year. McDowell, obviously we just talked about him when I made my NASCAR Pick'em selection. He's good on their restrictor plates. We've got 3 of those races left with Daytona and Talladega also on the schedule. Now, Talladega is obviously in the playoffs, but you got Daytona as the final race to get in. And he's also good on road courses, and we've got a couple road courses too. So I like that pick.
And the reason why I say Michael McDowell is we're going to Pocono. It's another one that he showed some speed at Michigan, and the road course is a factor in this. I know everybody's going to be like, he just said Michael McDowell, but Michael McDowell showed speed.
He
Shown
did.
a lot of speed, and he was actually really good at Chicago this past weekend also. So
Yep, I'm with you. So yeah, I like that. So you had McDowell, Buescher, and Bubba. Is that who it was?
yes.
Okay. McDowell, Buescher, Bubba. Okay, so our first out. So these are the guys who we think are going to be the first 3 drivers on the outside looking in. This is hard, man. It's hard to do because I don't like picking against these guys. I don't want to be like, oh, this guy sucks. He's not gonna make it. You know what I mean? It's just kind of a bummer. But anyways, so I'm gonna pick. So I'm gonna go with Keselowski, Bowman, and Ty Gibbs. Those are my picks for the first 3 out. I think Brad Keselowski has had a pretty good season when you consider, what's gone on. For him to even be in the playoffs right now is pretty incredible, considering that it's been pretty rare for them to show decent speed. I mean, if you look at the Fords as a whole, right? If you take out Logano, Blaney, and Harvick, like they have not been very good this season. You know what I mean? They really haven't. You take those 3 guys off the board, and Ford has been looking rough, right? Like if you look at the Chevys, for example, if you took off Byron, Chastain, and Busch, the top 3 Chevy drivers, you would still look and be like, well, hey, man, these guys have still shown good speed. They might not have the finishes to back it up, but, you got Larson, Stenhouse, Allmendinger, Suarez, Elliott, LaJoy, even Austin Dillon, right? Like those guys have all shown speed, where the Fords, not so much, right? Like, I mean, Harvick and Blaney and Logano, they have been like the banner carriers for Ford this year. So, yeah, I'm gonna go with Keselowski. I got Gibbs, Ty Gibbs. I do think his season has been pretty freaking incredible so far for him to even be in the top 16 right now, especially when you look at him compared to the other rookie, Noah Gragson. Now, obviously, there is, in my opinion, a very big difference between their teams. But I don't know if that is a 16 spot difference, right? Ty Gibbs is 16th in points. Noah Gragson is 32nd. So Ty Gibbs has really he's shown me a lot this year, and I think he's going to be a force to be reckoned with after this season. And then Alex Bowman, um, he was leading the points, but he had that massive penalty, 60 points, and then also he missed a handful of races with his injury, and I don't know if they're going to be able to overcome it. He just has not seemed to have the speed or the results so far since he's come back. They've just looked off. So yeah, I think he's going to be on the outside looking in. So those are my three, Keith. Who do you got?
My three is going to be Ty Gibbs. I think he's going to falter over the course of the run to the playoffs. Alex Bowman's the other one, and Chase Elliott's the other one. I
Didn't
know
see that
Chase.
one coming.
I know Chase has shown a lot of speed since he's been back. I just I don't think the season's going to fall the way that they think it's going to fall.
Yeah, he's
I,
going to have to get a win.
yeah, I don't think he can point his way in. There's no way. I think it's going to be really hard to point your way in, especially having the massive penalty,
Yep.
the injury, and it just seems like when he's running good, he doesn't finish good. When he's running bad, he finishes better.
Yep. I will say though, I will say this, he's got a phenomenal chance this weekend.
Yes,
You know
yes,
what
he
I
does.
mean? This is a track that he definitely has a good shot at. If you look at, I mean, obviously Chase Elliott, this season has obviously been crazy. But Chase Elliott, he's a good road course racer. He's a good super speedway racer. He's a good speedway racer, right? Like the guy can drive. He's obviously really good.
Yeah, and I don't want people to think that I absolutely hate Chase Elliott. It's not that I don't hate him. I hate his fans. His fans
Yes,
suck.
yes. I'm with you. I'm like that with certain people, and and look, I understand that I've got faults in life, and one of them is that I literally just stack stack chips of disrespect and carry on grudges with stuff, and I understand that it's not a good thing to do. And Chase Elliott fans, even though I don't consider myself like a fan of Chase Elliott's, but I do like Chase Elliott. I'm not really a fan of anybody in terms of like I don't sit down and like root for this guy every single week in and
No,
week out. I
no.
haven't done that in years, but I like Chase Elliott when he wins. I think it's good for the sport. I do. And I think he's got a good shot this weekend. I mean, obviously he's won at Atlanta before. But yeah, I'm with you, Keith. Some Chase Elliott fans, I'm kind
Yeah,
of like that about a lot of fans, though. I don't know. I think a
yeah,
lot of fans are just horrible.
and I think that's where me and you are a lot alike. I'm just a racing fan. Like, yeah,
Yes.
I love Kevin Harvick. I've always had a love for Kevin Harvick,
Mm-hmm.
and I like Chase Elliott. I grew up watching his dad race in the Cup Series, so it ain't
Yep.
like I fucking hate the guy. His fans are just very toxic.
Yes, yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, some of them are. I'd probably have to say that out of all the drivers, if I'm going to root for somebody, it would be Kyle Larson, just because of
Oh, yeah,
just
yeah.
watching him grow up and racing against them. And I mean, I can't really say what I did was racing against him, because the little prick just always used to kick my ass. But you know, it seeing him come from where he came from and stuff like that, to see him now, I think is pretty incredible. So yeah, I always have a rooting interest with him. Like, other drivers who've come from here, like Logan Seavey. Logan Seavey grew up just a few minutes from where I'm at, or Brad Sweet, right? There's a bunch of them that are actually from, within like an hour of where I'm at. So those guys I always have a rooting interest for. But yeah, I'm with you,
Yeah.
man. There's just I'm not it's like, yeah, I just root for racing as a whole. I just like it as a whole. So
And I agree with that. And it's not the fact that I got my ass kicked by Kyle Larson or Brad Sweet. It's the fact that sharing the track with them guys and then seeing where they're at now, it's
it's
awesome.
cool. Yeah, it's cool. It's really cool. So, but speaking of Kyle Larson and Brad Sweet. When we get back from the break, we're going to be diving into our Eldora Million breakdown. We've got the big sprint car race coming up this next week, as it's going to kick off the week of racing at Eldora, because we've got the Million and the Kings Royal. So huge week of sprint car racing. So we're going to dive into the first half of it right after this break. All right. So Eldora Million. This is the big one, Keith. This is the one we were talking about. We were wondering who was going to race it, who was going to be in it. Obviously, the World of Outlaws, they had their change with the points purse and the loyalty and all that stuff like that. We've seen a few outlaw drivers run some high limit stuff this year. We pretty much were saying from the beginning, look, the Million is something that everybody's going to be running, and we were right. They are at 60 entries right now. 59 entries for the race. Now, that the deadline for the early entry is today, okay, is July 7th, which is today. So I don't know if we're going to see any more entries until actual race day, okay? And even then, I don't know how that's going to work. But as of right now, we've got almost 60 drivers. And I got to be honest, this is if you go through the driver list, it's a freaking who's who of sprint car racing. Obviously, you've got the big names, right? The Outlaws, Shots, Sweet, Brent Marks, Rico Abreu, Casey Kane, Kyle Larson, Selzy, Schuhart, Hodenshield, right? But you've also got a lot of guys that are really, really good drivers who might not be outlaws, but definitely have a shot to win. Obviously, our man Sunshine, Tyler Courtney. I mean, he always does really well at Eldora. There's just a Lance DeWeese, obviously that guy, as much as I hate to admit it with this damn posse drivers, he's really good. So Macri, Cole Macedo, Danny Dietrich, Kerry Matson, Aaron Reitzel, Sam Haferteep. Like, there's a lot of really good drivers that are going to be running this weekend. So Keith, who do you think is going to win the Eldora Million? Who is your pick to win the Eldora Million?
So I was looking at the entry list here, and there's a name missing.
Who's the name?
Where the hell's Buddy Kofoid?
Yeah, you know what? I was shocked at that too. I did not see his name.
That's who I was going to pick, but I'll put a question mark on that. I'm sure he's racing. He just might not be on the entry list. The guy that I'm going to pick is the guy that he won the big money race there last time, not the Eldora Million. I got to go with Brent Marks. It seems like anytime there's big money laid out on the table, that man just comes out and catches everybody by surprise.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, I am not going to pick Brent Marks. Just back to your Chase Elliott thing. It's not Brent Marks, it's Brent Marks fans. You posse members, my God, I have to hear another PA posse fan tell me how Brent Marks is the sprint car version of Jonathan Davenport. I'm going to lose my mind, dude. God damn it. So sick of hearing that shit.
Actually, you know what? Just to piss off the PA posse guys, I'm not picking.
No, he's not a bad pick, man. He obviously, dude, last year he dominated there. It was funny when you watch the documentary Dirt, when Kyle Larson is racing, when he's being interviewed, when they're at Eldora, he's talking about how he's like, car's feeling good. I think if we can get around this guy, we might have a shot to win. And then you hear him after the race, he's like, oh my God, I didn't realize that Brent Marks was like a half a lap ahead of everybody. Like Marks was so far gone that Larson didn't even know he was leading. Like
Yeah,
that's how fast he was. So yeah,
Brett
I
Marks
would not be
checked out.
yeah, I would not be shocked by that at all because you're right. The dude when it's a uh a big money race, he shows out. He absolutely shows out. The dude is fast, man. He's fast. So yeah, I don't have a I don't disagree with that pick at all. Um I'm kind of torn, man. There's two I actually have two guys that I want to pick, and I'm torn between them because I think Tyler Courtney he's always really good at Eldora. He's just consistently good. Um, you know, he the dude always seems to be up
Well,
front there.
pick your two, and then I'll come back and I'll
Yeah,
pick.
so I'm gonna pick Rico and Sunshine. I think Rico's been
Dude,
on fire at Eldora lately. I
and
think he's been on fire just period lately.
it doesn't matter what car Rico gets in at Eldora. He's always a threat to win, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
a non-wing car, a midget,
Yep.
silver crown. I don't know if he's ever dabbled into a silver crown, but I'm sure he could win in it.
Yeah.
Uh, the guy that I was going to go back and pick was Sheldon Haudenschild. Um, it always seems like when everything's at stake, just like a Brent Marks, when there's big money laid out on the table,
Yeah.
other than the Huset's national race, we'll just throw that one out. That never happened. But when you look at the Eldora Speedway, the person that comes to mind with the Tyler Courtney and the Ricos
Mm-hmm.
and Kyle is Sheldon. He's always typically there, and that's usually an elbows up, rip the fence down kind of track, and that's usually where you see him shine.
Yep.
So that's going to be my second pick. I know they've had their struggles, but they're going to get it turned around in
They
the end.
have. Well, if there's a time to turn it around, it's you know for a
What a
million
better
dollars. Yeah, exactly. So, um, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this race, man. I cannot wait for this race. I think it's going to be awesome. Now, to give you guys an idea, so we've got a 2 night format. We've got Wednesday night and Thursday night. Now, Wednesday night is the prelim night. Um, and essentially what they're doing is they've got points for everything that you do. So essentially they're calling it every lap matters points. It says when competitors are on track during Wednesday's Twin 25 program, they will be scoring points using the Every Lap Matters format to seed the heat lineups for the Eldora Million on Thursday. So you've got qualifying. They're going to qualify 2 laps, 2 cars at a time. Then they're going to have the heat races. There's 4 heats. There are 10 laps. The heats will be inverted, and that will be determined by the Wheel of Misfortune. The top 5 will go to the A feature. The balance will go to the B and C if necessary. Then you've got the consolations. 12 laps for the B feature. Top 4 go to the A main. Then they're going to be running the A feature. Now, from my understanding, it sounds like there's 2 A features. You've got 2 groups. So, yes. So there will be 2 groups. The groups will be determined based on a number of factors, sanctioning body points, standings, results, different methods, and they're going to be putting them together. That just sounds like Eldora's way of saying, hey, we're going to split these 2 groups into what we think will be the best form of racing. Like that's what it sounds like to me. Hey, we're going to split these 2 groups up into what we want to see, what we think is going to be competitive. So, cuz obviously let's not kid ourselves, okay? Eldora and Tony Stewart, they're not stupid. All right? Is all the names that we just went through and there are a ton of very very good drivers in this, but let's be honest, when we see the feature for the Eldora Million, we want to see those top guys out there, right? We want to see Brent Marks and Donnie Schatz and DeWeese and Selzy and Sweet and Abreu and all those guys like that, okay? We're not wanting to see, a field with Harley White and Cale Thomas. Nothing against those guys, but they're not the names. You know what I mean? So the last thing Eldora wants to do is have one of the groups be all the heavy hitters knocking themselves out and then everybody else. So I would expect to see the strength of the field for each group be pretty even in terms of what gets divided up. And then they're going to do their invert with the Wheel of Misfortune in the A feature. A feature is 25 laps, and then it's 12,000 to win, and they score points for each thing. It's first place for qual is 100 points, heats 200, B 204, A 300, and then it goes down by 4 for each one. So that's really interesting because that's a different format than what we see for typical points events like this, Keith.
Yeah, and I'm just excited to get this damn thing going.
Me too.
It's been a very long time since we've had $1 million event for sprint car racing as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think this is going to be huge. I think the entry list is just going to get bigger. I think we're going to have weekend warrior guys show up when the race when the pits open. I'm just stoked. I'm ready
Yep.
to see it happen. The format's interesting. It'll make you really pay attention to what you're doing that weekend, because if you have a bad night, you're going to be screwed.
Yep. Well, and the cool thing is that so on Thursday, the night of the million, you've got 6 heats, 10 laps. They're going to be lined up by the points that they did from the previous night. First to third go to the feature, fourth to sixth go to the B, seventh on back go to the C. Now, in the feature, the heat race winners will draw for spots 1 through 6, right? So it's not just going to be straight up. They've got to draw for it, which is really interesting. The second place finishers will draw for 7th to 12th. So you could essentially be in heat race 6 and finish second, and you could start as high as the inside of row 4. That's huge, right? That's huge when you consider how we typically do it with the straight up starting, where they're going to be outside row 6. So that's a big difference. You're talking about 6 positions. That's a big deal.
Yeah, and what it's showing is heat races are going to be very important.
They're going to be extremely important.
Points and getting off to a good start,
very
important. If you start behind the 8 ball, you're going to stay behind the 8 ball. So these big teams that typically falter, looking at the Hodenshield group, you got to be on your A game. And I think that's where they come in on their A game. They're going to have to. Any team is going to have to. You know as well as I know, in sprint car racing, whether it's a weekend warrior seat race, a USAC or an outlaw, you start behind the 8 ball, you're stuck for a good bit.
Yes. And what I'm really looking forward to, so the feature is 50 laps, and they're going to have, from my understanding, it's going to be an open red on lap 20, on or around lap 20. And then they're going to finish out the race. That's really interesting because if you are somebody, if you're running, let's just say you're running up towards the front, right? You're in the top 6 and your car's not handling that well. Now you can make some adjustments, right? That is huge. We've seen races turn like that before. Open reds where you make changes to the car, and now this thing was not great and it's a rocket ship. So I'm really looking forward to that because I think we could see a swing in the next 30 laps. Because, dude, 30 laps is an eternity at Eldora. It really is. As fast as that track is, when you're talking about this point of the night, it's going to be slick. It's going to either be rolling right on the bottom or up on the wall. And that's 30 laps is a long time. So, dude, I'm really looking forward to this. There's very few races that I've looked forward to as much as this. Especially ones that I'm not going to be at. I'm not. It's not like I'm going to be there. I'm just going to be watching on the TV. So yeah, I freaking can't wait, man, to see what happens with this.
And it's about time sprint car racing gets a race like this with
Mm-hmm.
a purse this high. I mean, you've been beating on this
Mm-hmm.
drum for what, the last 2 years since we've been
Yeah.
doing this podcast, that payouts for sprint car racing suck. Nothing,
Yep.
something needs to change, and Tony Stewart decided to make a big change, and I'm excited to see how this plays out, to see what they do in the following years. I know next year it'll probably go back to the late models, which I'm fine with. As long as they keep flip flopping, I'm cool with it.
I'm fine with that too. I think that's awesome. I think it's
I
awesome if they do that, to be
Yeah,
honest, because I think
I
it
mean,
makes it that much more special to win it.
yeah, it makes it more of a crown jewel
Mm-hmm.
event. I
Yep.
don't want to see it ran one year and then never ran again.
Yeah.
So I have no doubt in my mind that this is going to be a success, and you couldn't pick a better racetrack to do it at than Eldora. I mean, the racing's always good there. It doesn't matter what the car is. It's
Yep.
always really good and exciting. 50 laps at Eldora is going to be insane for the feature event because, like you said, it'll either be really slick and you'll be on the bottom, pulling the bottom, or you'll be up ripping the fence down, and it's going
Yep.
to be treacherous. And I think that's where you're going to see these guys that race real sketchy really lay it out
Yep.
on the line and show why they're the best in the world, because I've never seen an entry list so stacked in my entire life.
Yeah. It is. It is stacked.
From
You're gonna see the B main is gonna look like a
an
feature.
outlaw feature.
Yep. Mm-hmm. It's
I mean,
gonna
it's
be insane.
and then how you're talking about the open red, how guys can struggle and then get the open red and make some changes. We've seen this happen how many times in the Knoxville Nationals?
Yep.
Um, I think that's a blessing in disguise because you can kind of save what you have till that open red and then just adjust on it further. And
Mm-hmm.
you could be running 12th at the time of the open red, come out of the open red and make a good charge to the front. The thing that I'm going to be willing to see and wanting to see is, do these guys take care of their tires? Are you allowed to change tires in an open red? I'm not 100% sure. I can't
I
remember.
don't think so. You can pretty much do everything else. Now,
Yeah,
I don't know if they're going to have restrictions on it, and I would actually have to look through the rule books to see it.
I
I
would.
just know typically you can make suspension adjustments to the car,
Yeah,
but I don't know if you can change tires.
I almost want to say the only way you can change a tire is if you have one go down or blow it
Yes,
out.
and then I believe if you do, you have to go to the back.
Yeah, yes. So it'll be
So,
interesting to see who saves their stuff for a late race charge and who doesn't,
mm-hmm.
because that's going to play a big factor into it. A lot of people might say it won't, but I beg to differ. Tires mean a lot,
Yep, they do absolutely. I
especially now when you have tires just coming apart to come apart because they haven't had time to sit overnight or sit for weeks at a time for the compounding to seal to the tire.
Yep, yep. No, you're right. I remember we had a so we were racing down at we were at Hanford and we were running the um it wasn't called King of the West back then. Back then it was called, I think, Golden State Challenge. And we were running up front. I was helping McMillan's at that time. Tim Kading was our driver, and we were running in like fourth at the time. And red flag comes out. And Brent Kading, Tim and Bud's dad, had not been running very well. And keep in mind, at this time, this was because this is like 20 years ago. Brent Kading was like the king of California, right? Like, I mean, out here, like the dude, what he won all the championships, he won most of the races. Like, he was like the king out west here, and he was not running good. Open red. His crew went out there. They changed 4 shocks because back then we didn't have all these 2-way adjustable shocks where you're just going click, click, click. Like, you had to actually change the damn shock. They changed 4 shocks. Dude went from like 12th to 2nd in like 13 laps. Now I get it. This was Hanford, and this was a, King of the West show or Golden State Challenge show. It's not the Eldora Million, but you can see cars go from crap to incredible with a few adjustments. And these teams are the best in the business. So I think that is going to be one of the coolest things to see, is what happens with these guys when they have that break. What types of changes are going to be made, what's going to be allowed to be made, and what kind of difference will we see in their cars. Like I said, you could have guys who are horrible to incredible. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
And I am too. And I'm looking forward to see what Brady Bacon can do in this, because he's a sneaky good wing guy, and I
Mm-hmm.
think if the right situation shows, and he's a good points racer, so I'd be looking out on Brady Bacon. I regret not taking him, but there's reasons why I didn't, right?
Yeah.
I'm freaking pumped to see it. I almost wish I still had a sprint car so I could enter my squirrely ass into this million, luck
Yeah.
my way into a million win. That'd be freaking
Yeah.
great.
That would be awesome, man. I am trying right now. I'm working on getting this stuff put together so I can go out there for the 4 Crown. There's a bunch of us are going. I'm trying to join everybody, and yeah, like I can't wait to go out there and see some racing at Eldora. And I think this weekend, for those of you who are going to be there live, is going to be incredible. Not this weekend, but next weekend. Next week when
Yeah,
they've got the million, I think it's going to be insane.
I'm gonna be very, very jealous. If I could have my family vacation anywhere, it'd be to Eldora Speedway. I
Yeah.
mean, the racing's good. You can feed your family for cheap there, cheaper than McDonald's, and the food is very, very good. So when you go, make sure you try some of them cheese curds. They're freaking amazing, and a pizza burger.
I will. I will definitely do that. So yeah. But yeah, big week of racing. So Eldora Million kicks off July 12th. It's July 12th and the 13th. And then after that, we've got the King's Royal. So, you guys, that's going to do it all for this week's show. Now, we will be back next week. We're going to be recording on Friday, and I'll be getting the show up as quick as I can on Friday. So, we're going to do our Eldora Million recap and then our King's Royal breakdown heading into the rest of the weekend at Eldora. So yeah, 4 nights of racing at Eldora. Hopefully we have some good weather and everything goes off without a hitch, because it's gonna be fun, man. I'm really looking forward to it. So, but yeah, we'll be back next week. Keith, my man, enjoy this weekend, enjoy the million, and yeah, I'll see you back here next week.
Thanks, you too. Enjoy your weekend. Have a good rest of the week of work,
Oh
and
yeah.
let's go
Yeah.
watch somebody win $1 million.
Let's go watch somebody win $1 million. That's right. So, all of you out there, thank you very much as always for joining us. We very much appreciate it. Please download, share, subscribe, like, all that other good stuff. Do that, and we will be back here next week to do this all over again. So, for me, Thomas Brandon, and my man Keith Bradley, hope all of you guys have an awesome weekend. Take care.